I'm Marilyn Thomas, Marilyn Grace Thomas. Good morning, everybody. Praise the Lord. Thank you for yesterday, Pastor Chad, the church. That was beautiful. I'm glad I got to be part of it. Yeah, you're making me nervous, Roger.
Hi.
As you can see, I had the cleanings going on. I was told the more I cry, the less I pee, so...
We hope you don't.
Well, I'm very blue, so my colors are blue, so I'm very, wear my heart on my sleeve and cry, and wasn't always like that, right? I, for many years, didn't want to feel and needed to numb the pain. I'll start by saying, yeah, I'm just so grateful to be here and be able to share this with you guys about my love and my faith for God and what He's done in my life. Here we go already. Okay, I'll start with being a very young girl when I was separated from my biological father and mother split up. And I was born and raised in Lethbridge, Alberta. It's beautiful because I've always been around the Baptist church, and a little confusing because I went to Catholic school. My dad's side was Catholic and my mom's side was Mormon. On my own, due to some circumstances, I eventually veered towards a Baptist church. However, on my stepdad's side, I'll just back up a little bit. My mom and dad separated when I was very little. I was about a year and a half old, maybe. And my mom remarried, I think, when I was about 2. So the earliest memory I actually have was being in my high chair. I watched my father go out the house with a suitcase, and I remember our floor kind of being on an angle, and my mom dropping a Safeway paper bag and the groceries falling out of it, and I don't know why that's the earliest memory, but I remember watching my father walk out the doors. She remarried and had 2 more children. My brother is 7 years younger than me, and my sister's 9 years younger than me. Speed things up a little bit. I was very abused emotionally, mentally, physically, and sexually. I was removed by the RCMPs and my stepfather was charged. And I think I was just over 13 when I was on the streets on my own. Growing up, I remember my biological father being sentenced and sent to Drumheller Federal Prison. And I remember sneaking away from my mom's house to go see my dad's sister, my Auntie Belle. I would walk about 45 minutes so that she would take me to visit my father in prison when he was in Lethbridge. And I remember kissing him goodbye through the fence before, like a school fence, before he was sent away to Drumheller Prison. And then I also remember when he was, I was in grade 3 or 4, yeah, grade 3, when he showed up at my school. And by this time, of course, I'd heard many stories about my father, and it was from my mom, and it was very hurtful. And she had kept me away from my dad's side of the family. And on my dad's side, my grandmother and grandfather had 10 children. And on my mom's side, there's 6 children. So back then, the families were much... I'd have 13 if I could do it all over. Anyways, I love kids. Yeah, so I remember him coming to my school, and I remember getting on the bus, and then off the bus, on the bus, off the bus, on the bus, and then finally I went with him in the car to hang out with him. And you have to remember, there was a few years there that I had been a bit brainwashed about my father and how he was this bad man, and kept away from that side of the family. And so I went off with my father, and I spent some time with, and he was my hero. I have to say, he was my hero. He dropped me off, I made him drop me off in the back alley, and it was shortly after that, I guess, just grade 7, that my mom sold the house and moved me to this small hick town that you could drive past it, blink and miss it, Monarch, Alberta. And that was to get me away from my dad. That's when, you know, I had been sexually abused by my stepfather. And I finally had the courage to tell a friend at school, and she told one of our teachers that we were also a social worker, and I was removed. From there, I ended up on the streets at a very young age. And, you know, when I was in school in Lethbridge, I was so involved with the church, and even my stepdad's family in Saskatchewan, my great-grandfather, he would take me at grade 1, 2, and 3 when we were out there. We'd travel in the old International and go to Baptist Church outside of Shellbrook, Saskatchewan, and ice cream, and then, yeah, it was just a blast. I still have my New Testament, and in the front you can see my name scribbled, Marilyn Grace Thomas. I was just learning handwriting, right? So you see the cross off and what room number I was in. And I still carry that Bible with me. It's the New Testament with the wood on it, and the wood is from Jerusalem. Yeah, memories, wow. So, when I was on the streets, of course, this is where my abandonment started, right? My abandonment issues and my hurt, my anger, the why me, you know, always just, I really just wanted my mom in my life. And for some reason, she didn't want me, and I didn't understand it. And so, by this time I had been already, even before I had been removed, I was already actively drinking. I started drinking when I was 9. I started full-blown taking alcohol in a purse. The only reason I carried a purse to school, I'm such a tomboy, was so I could take a bottle of Jack Daniels. And we would sneak off at lunchtime, and we'd, you know, smoke marijuana and drink, and that's where it all began. And I kind of just veered off the track, and I started losing hope, and I started losing faith. And, you know, I wore this shirt today. It says, it's about the journey, not the destination. Whew. Good time to say a prayer that I got today. Bear with me. If a part of your past continues to haunt you and rob you of the joy, forgive. Lord, I cannot undo the past, but with your help I can let go by forgiving myself and everyone else that has hurt me. Do not let yourself be judged by others or ruled by approval or disapproval. Lord, may I always trust in myself and you and live in each day accordingly. So my stepfather was charged, and my real father had no idea what had gone on. And I remember one day, my mom's youngest brother, my Uncle Kevin, had a pizza joint in Lethbridge, and we had ordered, my dad and I had ordered some pizza from there. And you know, my dad gave me the money to go. This is after he had gotten out of prison and I had him back in my life. I had obviously seeked him out when I was on my own. And we hung out a lot. I loved hanging out with him. My dad was an alcoholic, but he was a happy drunk. And I knew he had God in his life. I knew he prayed. I never judged him. I only looked up to him. He had given me the money to go pay for the pizza at the door, and lo and behold, it was Bill, my stepfather. And right away my fear escalated, and I ran to the bathroom, and my father was really upset when he found out the truth. And I was scared. I was really terrified to tell him. I got involved with a man, I was about 14 years old, and he was about 19 or 20, and Kent Neiman. And I had dated him for a little while, and we went out to Vancouver together, and I remember being underage and trying to get social assistance and making up a phony name and having them call my father and hoping he would, you know, get my back and lie for me. And however, he didn't lie for me, and they sent me back on a Greyhound bus. And Kent and I spent quite a bit of time together, and I had another friend that I grew up with that dated Kent's friend. And so the four of us, us two girls were underage, and Kent and this other fella and her and I were involved in some serious crimes, and the guys, mostly, we were just accomplices. Anyways, we were on our way to the York Hotel to catch a taxi, to catch a flight, and the police arrived and we were all arrested. And unfortunately, well, fortunately, my name wasn't in the paper, but unfortunately, all four of us were on the front page of the Lethbridge Herald. And this is how my life constantly continued. I watched him go to prison. Both of them went to prison, and I also went to juvie prison. And asked my father to come, and you know what my dad says is, "I'm sorry, you made your bed, you lay in it." I thought, well, of all people that have gone to jail, my dad would back me and come get me. I had nowhere to go. I had nowhere to live. My mom wanted nothing to do with me. Just to back up things a little bit, before this had happened, before Kent and I were seeing each other, you know, I started playing violin in grade 3. In 1981, I took second place in Nella, Alberta. I played Tchaikovsky's Minuet. I took second place for the Knights of Columbus. I was involved with Air Cadets. I was involved with youth, Pioneer Girls. I was always doing service work, and I don't know how I lost that. I really just kind of got distracted from my right path. However, here I am today, and it's for a reason, and I praise God every day for my life. You know, I watched Kent go to jail, and I got a phone call when I eventually was out of the youth penitentiary. I got a family call from his mom and sister who loved me dearly. They said that they found Kent beaten badly, upside down in a closet in a hotel in Edmonton. So badly beaten they had to cremate him, and they would like me at the service. And so my first true love was murdered. And I was hanging out at pool halls, trying to survive on the streets. My best friend was a prostitute. She put me up in her hotel with her, and I decided that I was going to hustle pool and sell drugs. And that was my survival mode. I eventually, again, putting that energy out there, I attracted just the wrong stuff. I let that evil in, and you know, I got involved in another relationship after that. My first son's father, Wayne. And just before this, I'll stop right there, because just before this, when I was living with my friend in the hotel, I appeared at doing one of my deliveries, and you know, I had the door open and I was grabbed, and I had a shotgun held to my head, and I was raped. And I was told if I ever spoke about it that he would kill me. And it's only until the last couple of years that I've been able to share that honestly. By the grace of God. So my confidence and my self-esteem and my self-worth for many years was gone. My love for myself, for my Lord, was gone. I always knew or thought I had God in my life. Today I realize that for many years I had a concept of God in my life, but I had everybody else's concept. I didn't have my own. The betrayal, the hurt, the abandonedness, the loneliness, all of that is in the past, right? I've, you know, Wayne, my son Jesse, who's going to be 25 August 26th, his father and I talked today. My youngest son, who some of you met the day of my baptism, Riker, who will be 15 in November, his father was an atheist for many years and denied me access, denied me on school grounds, wouldn't let me talk to him even though I had a custody order saying I had access, denied me everything. And I had to learn that I needed to pray for him and not hold a resentment. This is a miracle. A year ago Christmas, Riker's father Rick, and I have to tell you, Riker's father raped me and I was pregnant with Riker. So, Riker's a miracle. I love him so much. And a year ago Christmas, his father Rick accepted the Lord in his life. Prayer is so strong. Once I had learned to, you know, not hold on to that resentment and that anger and have hope and faith and pray and meditate and talk to others and have an open mind and willingness to change, the hope began. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. Today I can talk to Rick on the phone. Today I can be in the same room as him. Today I can join him in his church with my son. I can sit there with Jonathan and my son and his new wife, and he's met a beautiful Christian lady. They just gotten married in March, and you know, it's beautiful. The day before my baptism, oh no, the Saturday after my baptism, I had come home and there was a brown envelope on my door and addressed to the parents and guardian of Riker. And I opened it up and it was an apology letter from the school district, apologizing for not having the report cards and that he has moved on to the next grade. He'll be going to grade 10 and you know, their strike and yada, yada, yada. However, the miracle behind this is I've never in 10 years been acknowledged as his parent. he rides on the back of my bike. Mother's Day, it was the most beautiful thing. Most of you, I don't know how many of you understand addiction and alcohol and have a problem. Yeah, all right, brothers, all right, sisters. So, you know, it was again that I found how to search on a daily basis. You know, it was actually the first treatment facility that I attended. The first thing that happened to me was a girl that I was buddied and roommate with. Her name was Kat. The first thing she did was get down on her knees at night with me and pray. And I had not had that happen in years. That's when I started having hope. And that was November, the last day in November of 2001. Where are we? No, 2009, so a little damage done already, right? Yeah, so December 1st, 2009 is my sober and clean and sober sobriety date. And I praise the Lord every day because it wasn't no human power that got me clean and sober. It was God. Amen. Yeah. And so I'm trying to keep the two separate here, and it is through the power and the glory and the grace of God that I stand before you and I'm able to share with you what's happened in the past and what I'm like, what it was like and what happened and what it's like now. You know, some of the events that I went through, that when I lived in Surrey for years, I hung out with the wrong crowd. I was actually in the Miss Canada pageant and a 12th runner-up for Canada, and I was kicked out because of my oldest son. I didn't know I wasn't allowed to have children. And so, yeah, so I had some beautiful things happen, but I also had a lot of abusive relationships over and over and over and over. I was mentally, physically, and emotionally abused. And again, I attracted all that. I lived in Chehalis, and this was just before I had lost Riker, and my oldest son Jesse took off due to the courts fighting for custody of Riker destroyed me. I was living in Chehalis with a boyfriend and Native, and being one of the only Caucasian women up there, drugs, alcohol, I was beaten badly and left her to die. I was beaten by 35 of them and left to die. I went to Pigros once, and for years I didn't know that I was sitting in a motorhome with the girls that I was hanging out with, and I didn't know for years that it was Picton that I was looking at in front of me. Some of the places that I've been, I'm not afraid today to face and recover. Face everything and recover. That's my fear. The